Let me continue on then with Titus and the character of Titus and how quickly and how powerfully Shakespeare introduces us to his title character. When he's first introduced on stage, it's by his brother Marcus, who does most of the talking. Marcus is the diplomat. He is the most verbal of the brothers. He often gives speeches that are too long, as we'll discuss when we get to the speech wherein he discovers Lavinia, who's been raped and mutilated. But he is the mouthpiece for his brother, who is the general. And that is how Titus is first introduced to us. He is a military man. This is Act 1, Scene 1, lines 1-123. Chosen Andronicus, surnamed Pius, for many good and great deserts to Rome, a nobler man, a braver warrior, lives not this day within the city walls. He by the Senate is acquitted home from weary wars against the barbarous Goths, that with his sons a terror to our foes hath yoked a nation strong, trained up in arms. 10 years are spent since first he undertook this cause of Rome, and chastised with arms our enemies' pride. So when we first meet Titus, he is introduced to us as an incredibly loyal, incredibly successful, incredibly durable general, military man. But I want you to look at the second feature that Shakespeare wants us to pay attention to in terms of understanding Titus's identity. And that feature is the fact that Titus is willing to sacrifice his sons. Marcus goes on in that same speech, lines 1, Act 1, Scene 1, lines 33. 5 times he hath returned bleeding to Rome, beating his valiant sons in coffins from the field. 5 times he has returned bleeding to Rome, bearing his valiant sons in coffins from the field. And it's this willingness to sacrifice that Shakespeare highlights for us. And so we've got to pay attention as an audience. When Shakespeare does this early on, he's asking his audience, hey, this is an important theme. This is an important idea. This is critical to this character. Titus himself, when he first speaks to an audience, does the same thing virtually. This is Act 1, Scene 1, lines 77. Hail Rome, stand gracious to the rites that we attend. Romans, of 25 valiant sons, half of the number that King Priam had, behold the poor remains alive and dead. These that survive let Rome reward with love. These that I bring into their latest home with burial amongst their ancestors. In short, Titus has lost 21 of 25 sons in battle. That's a lot. And first thing he's going to do is bury them. They open a family tomb. There greet in silence as the dead are wont, and sleep in peace, slain in your country's wars. O sacred receptacle of my joy, sweet cell of virtue and nobility, how many sons hast thou of mine in store that thou wilt never render to me more? Lucius, one of the surviving sons, and in fact the son that's going to survive and be the ranking general at the end of the play, announces that before Titus can bury his sons properly, there's got to be a sacrifice from the Goths. Give us the proudest prisoner of the Goths, that we may hew his limbs, and on a pile ad manus fratrum sacrifice his flesh before this earthly prison of their bones. Titus jumps up and he's going to officiate over this sacrifice so he can bury his sons. It's at that moment that Tamara, who is the queen of the Goths, and it's her son, of course, it's going to be sacrificed, jumps up to plead for her sons. Now, we're going to discover, of course, that Tamara is a pretty nasty piece of work, but at this moment in the play, at this early moment in the play, imagine yourself an audience just watching it for the first time, it's impossible not to sympathize with Tamara. Even though Titus is the title character, Shakespeare sets up the scene so that you're going to sympathize with Tamara, who turns out to be incredibly cruel and vicious herself. And that's called dramaturgy. Dramaturgy, D-R-A-M-A-T-U-R-G-Y. It's the way in which a director or playwright guides or manipulates an audience's emotions to feel sympathy for a given character at a given time. Shakespeare is eventually going to turn our sympathies back towards Titus, although he's certainly not a lovable title character, but he is admirable in a certain way. But right at this early moment, we can't but feel sympathy for Tamara because she's pleading for her sons. She says, If to fight for king and commonwealth, this is lines 114, were piety in thine, it is in these. Andronicus, stain not thy tomb with blood. Wilt thou draw near the nature of the gods? Draw near them then in being merciful. Sweet mercy is nobility's true badge. Thrice noble Titus, spare my firstborn son, Alarbus. She says, he was just fighting for his cause, just like your sons. Be merciful. Do this. He raises her and he says, religiously we ask a sacrifice. I have to appease the groaning shadows of those that have died for my son. Tamara says, in response to Titus here, oh, that's cruel, irreligious piety. In other words, this isn't true religion. This isn't true religion or spirituality. This is just you performing an economic ritual. And again, an audience can't not sympathize with Tamara at this opening moment in the play. And that's something we've got to figure out. Why is it? What is Shakespeare talking about in terms of sacrifice here? And particularly sacrificing children, which rather startlingly opens this play.